Well, good morning. Welcome. I am thrilled to welcome the Governor Evers to the Wauwatosa community. I'm State Representative Robin Vining, and I am honored to represent the people of Brookfield, Milwaukee, and right here in Wauwatosa. I want to first acknowledge some of my fellow public servants in the Assembly and State Senate. So we have here today Senator Larson, Representative Brastoff, Representative Haywood, Representative Reamer, and Representative Sinikian. Did I get everyone? Yes? All right. So thank you also to the Wauwatosa School District, to the teachers and the administrators for all of your hard work, and thank you for being here to support our schools. If you follow state politics, you may have heard about a debate about how to use our state's budget surplus. I'm here today because I believe that the moment we have before us is bigger than competing tax cut plans. When I talk to my friends and neighbors in Brookfield and Wauwatosa and Milwaukee, I hear concerns about the lack of mental health resources in our schools, and our schools not having the funding that they need to create opportunity for all. We have an opportunity before us, an opportunity to meet the needs of our people. The Wisconsin idea is that education should influence people's lives beyond the boundaries of a classroom. Governor Evers' plan meets the moment to address the mental health care needs in our schools. Governor Evers' plan meets the moment to ensure those with special needs are given the resources they need to be successful. Governor Evers' plan meets the moment by increasing equalization aid across Wisconsin so our local school districts are not continued being asked to do more with less. I am here to meet the moment with Governor Evers in a school because this is where our funding needs to be invested. And Governor Evers' plan, while meeting the moment and doing all these things, also delivers property tax relief. Yesterday, Republicans literally and figuratively gavelled out of this conversation. But that's not stopping me from fighting for the needs of our teachers, our administrators, our students, and our schools. And thankfully, that's not stopping our governor either. And with that, I am honored to introduce a governor uniquely equipped to meet this moment, a governor who invested his life and career in education, a father, a grandfather, a teacher, and our education governor, Tony Evers.
Thanks so much, Robin, and also thanks to Superintendent Earl and Principal Minor. It's always interesting being in a building that is being also remodeled at the same time. It's like flying an airplane and fixing it at the same time too. So thanks for your good work, and thanks to everybody for being here today. It's an important day. So a little bit before I talk about why we're here, I want to talk about how we got here. A little more than a year ago, I received a letter from all the Republicans in the Assembly highlighting their priorities for the upcoming year. They said they wanted to work together to get back to 2/3 funding for our public schools. A few months later, I signed our biennial budget. I was proud of what we were able to do around special education funding, largest increase in a generation, and also the largest increase in general aid in a decade. But ultimately, the Republicans sent to the budget the Republicans sent to my desk was only a third of the proposed $1.4 billion investment in our kids and failed to get to 2/3 funding. Despite that being the Republicans' own priority, and is also recommended by the Republicans' own Blue Ribbon Commission on School Funding. So when the projected revenue estimates came out just a month ago, we decided we would use some of the funds on that issue, on which I thought Republicans and Democrats could all agree. That is, renewing our state's promise around 2/3 funding, and also reducing property taxes for folks all across the state. So that's why we announced a $250 million proposal that would have gotten us to 2/3 funding, while increasing funding for school-based mental health, which is absolutely needed, as well as special education aid. And we said we're not only going to make a significant investment in our kids and our schools, but more than half of that proposal would have actually gone towards property tax relief through equalization aid. So imagine my surprise then when just a short while later the Republicans in the legislature announced a spending plan for the surplus funds. Their spending plans didn't fulfill the Republicans' own promise to invest in our kids and our schools. It was a spending plan that didn't do anything to help prevent us from having to rely on local taxpayers to pass local referenda to foot the bill the state should be taking care of. And it was a spending plan that didn't provide broad and meaningful property tax relief for many of the folks who have seen their property taxes go up year over year for the past decade. In addition, their spending plan would leave $123 million less in our rainy day fund than current projections. Look, I get it. Republicans are more concerned about the perceptions of giving a Democratic governor a win than by getting things done. It's politics, plain and simple, because under my plan, everyone can win. But at the end of the day, when Republicans choose to play politics instead of keeping their own promise or working together to find common ground on something they have supported in the past, I'm not the one that's losing. The kids are losing, our schools are losing, and the property taxpayers are losing. We cannot continue to ignore the fact that our state has been asleep on the job when it comes to fully funding our schools. We cannot ignore the fact that our kids and our educators and our schools continue to be stretched too thin. And we cannot continue to ignore the fact that the state hasn't paid its fair share, and that as a result, nearly 1 million Wisconsinites have voted to raise their own taxes to support their own schools since 2011. In fact, this district in 2018, taxpayers right here in Wauwatosa voted for a more than $120 million referendum. Folks, the sustainability of this is not possible. We have to start investing in our kids and our schools. And to be clear, we don't have to choose between investing in our kids and reducing property taxes. We can do both at the same time. So today, I am proud to be joined by Representative Vining and the other legislators who came with us today, who promised, and she promised, to come to the legislature to reduce and fight to reduce property taxes, and in the heart of a school district that's had to raise their own property taxes to support their local schools. Therefore, I will veto this bill in Wauwatosa that fails to invest in our kids and provide property tax relief to the people across the state. Now, I know Republicans in the legislature don't want to have to explain to their constituents why they don't support our schools or reduce property taxes. The good news is there's still time to do the right thing. It's time for the Republicans to put politics aside so we can do what's right for our kids, our schools, and of course our property taxpayers. I'm ready to work across the aisle to get this done, and I'm willing to come to a compromise that works for everyone. I'm open to making additional payment on our state debt. I'm also open to considering an income tax cut. I'm also open to a plan that provides more property tax relief than what my original plan proposed. But I will not accept a plan that continues to let local taxpayers foot bills the state should have to pay. And I will not accept a plan that doesn't invest in our kids and our schools, from mental health education to special education. And I will not accept a plan that fails to provide broad, meaningful property tax relief for taxpayers across the state. And I don't care who gets the credit. I don't care who gets the credit. I just know that people of our state deserve elected officials that get things done, and funding our schools and reducing our property taxes should be something we can agree on. So I'm hopeful that Republicans will come to the table and work with me so we can get this done for our schools, our kids, and our property taxpayers. And with that, I am going to veto SB 821. I don't have to sign. Letter to the legislature. And now we'll wait for a response so that we can help our kids, help our property taxpayers. So with that, be glad to answer any questions people have.
Governor, their plan called for income tax relief. You wanted school funding and property tax relief. Right now with this veto, the taxpayers have nothing. So where is the middle ground here?
The middle ground is, as I said, I would accept accept income tax relief. I would accept higher property tax relief, but we also have to have the pieces for our schools. I mean, it can be done. I've indicated what I would support, and I think that it's a win-win for everybody. As I said, I don't care if I get the credit; they can take the credit. It's a credit for the kids, frankly, and the taxpayers. Yes.
Governor, what would you consider your wins from this legislative session?
Legislative session, we've had many bills that I've signed that have had bipartisan support. That's always something that I prize. And, we have several bills coming up that I'm looking forward to signing that are, frankly, very, very important. The ones I have signed are important, but I'm always looking for bipartisan support. Yes, sir.
This is a full veto or not a partial veto?
Correct. It's a full veto.
If you wanted to have the middle ground, why not a partial veto today?
Because I couldn't have done that all in a partial veto. Contrary to popular belief, I can't invent things through a veto. So we need to sit down and figure this out, which we can. I mean, there's lots of time. I know there's all concern about people running for re-election, but the fact of the matter is we're only in February, I think, and we got a bunch of legislators here are looking forward to signing a compromise bill, and everybody can have a hootenanny and take credit. This is important.
You think this would have played out differently had this not been an election year?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. I'm not sure. I think we would be standing here in maybe March instead of February. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure the election year plays a role. Yes, sir.
Are you worried about Republicans hitting Democrats for not going forward with the income tax?
I think, they have said repeatedly property tax relief is a priority, as have Democrats, and they have said all the time, and they have the letter to prove it, that they want the 2/3 funding. So it's not what they wanted. What they're doing is not what they said they were going to do, and so this gives them a chance to do that.
So where is the agreement on income tax, do you think, on what the number you have and what they might do?
Oh, we need to sit down and figure that out. We'll talk about it. I indicated that one of the compromises I would make would be an income tax cut, and so let's sit down and figure that out.
Have they given you an indication on what compromises they're willing to make?
I'm waiting for their response. Yes.
Just switching gears a little bit, do you think it can persuade Senate Republicans to approve the bill that will allow bars to stay open until 4 a.m. during the DNC here in Milwaukee?
Well, it passed one house, and so we need to get it through the Senate, and I don't know what their politics are around this. It seems to be a realistic thing to do. I support it.
Governor, can I get your thoughts? The CDC yesterday pretty much said it's not a question of if coronavirus will hit the U.S., but or not that it will.
Yeah.
And so talked about social distancing measures, schools, businesses. What conversations have you had with your state public health officials on making sure Wisconsin is prepared for a coronavirus?
Yeah, our health services staff is in constant contact with the CDC. And so whatever they're suggesting, we're following and making sure we get it out. But it is around making sure that people, if they have the flu, and I'm not talking about coronavirus, just the flu period, if they're having flu symptoms, they should stay home. And whether it's a kid in school or whether it's somebody in work, the idea is contain it as much as possible. And it looks like we've been somewhat successful in that in the state of Wisconsin. We haven't had any increase in the numbers, so we're hopeful going forward. But it certainly is something that has roiled the stock market in the last few days, and that is understandable, frankly, when you have a large country essentially shutting down, and it's part of the industrial world that we live in. It's going to have an impact that way. But the good news in Wisconsin is that we seem to have taken it seriously about social distancing, and that means staying at home. And there's only been I can't remember the number of cases that we've had, but it's a very small number. And we're hopeful that with those precautions, we'll be in a good place. But it's something that we take seriously, that's for sure.
Have you done any special briefing? Have you asked public health officials and your team to sort of brief you on what is the plan in a what-if scenario?
Well, yes, we talk about that, but the goal is to make sure that there's distance for the people that have the flu. If you have flu symptoms, make sure you connect with a doctor. So we're in a preventative mode. Of course, if there's significant issues, we'll take it to the next level. But at this point in time, we feel confident in what we're doing.
Have any military bases been asked to be used if there needs to be quarantine?
Not to my knowledge.
We have time for 2 more questions.
There's been an increase in violence against women. 12 of the murders in Milwaukee City have been against women and children. What can you do with Republicans in the legislature to deal with this problem that cut the crime?
Well, first of all, we have to make sure that our counties and municipalities are properly funded. I've always said and I made promises to the counties association and the municipalities association that they do a lot of the hard work we do in the state of Wisconsin. They need resources, and Milwaukee is primary example of that. And so we need to make sure that happens. But we also have to, and I know this is breathtaking for some people, but we also have to have an honest dialogue around gun safety. It's a really tricky issue here in Wisconsin. Obviously, the legislature wasn't willing to talk about it. They gavelled in and gavelled out. All I want is a discussion. We had two really common sense solutions on the table that they wouldn't even talk about, and that's the frustration I have about politics these days. These representatives behind me need to have the opportunity to talk about it and vote on it, and have their constituents understand where they're standing, as well as the other state representatives. It boggles my mind that, and something as important as that, we could lose. I understand that. But I think our state representatives owe it to their constituents to say, this is where I stand on this. And we can't get to that point. So that's a frustration for me, and I know the question you're talking about, I follow it every day, and I see this. And we had a child in Madison yesterday that shot in the foot, just for gunplay. We have to have a discussion around that in the state, and I'm hopeful at some point in time people will understand, the legislators, not these folks, they get it, that we have to have a discussion. We have to have a vote. And if we lose that vote, then people know where we stand.
Governor, any thought on SB 6 signing the mandatory minimum for 5th and 6th of OWI?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing that, and I'm leaning towards signing that.
Governor, where do you look at the upcoming Milwaukee Public Schools referendum in this larger statewide debate about public funding?
Yeah, well, first of all, just so everybody knows, as state superintendent, as governor, I take no position in this. Those are local discussions, but it is part of the overall discussion when, this school district, Milwaukee Public Schools, all public schools in the state have had a difficult time just in keeping up with repairs and minor things, and that deferred maintenance accumulates to a point. Well, gosh, we can't just continue in this way. We got to go to referendum. The reason they got to that point is because we haven't made that commitment as we have in the past, the 2/3 funding. So I think it does fit into that conversation.
Thanks, everybody.
Just the discrepancy between more economically challenged districts and a district like Wauwatosa, for example, where the taxpayers could support a referendum, is that discrepancy become larger?
Yes, it does, and I've always liked to approach school funding from an equity vantage point, and that's exactly what you're talking about. We're not there yet, but I'll continue to fight for that.
Thanks, everybody. That's all
Thank
we
you.
have time for.
Thanks. Thanks.